Hey everybody, it's April Fool's Day, and can you think of any bigger fool than Chad Daybell, who's facing a jury today as the murder trial starts for the murder of Tammy Daybell, his wife, and then his secret lovers, children, JJ, Vallow, you remember Joshua, and Tylee Ryan. Stick around and I'll show you three things that I think are worth looking into and preparing for as this case gets underway. Well, hey everybody, it's Mike for Profiling Evil. Welcome aboard. I'm going to just be playing some video today, and we're going to be allowing what's going on in the courtroom to continue on. We're just getting underway in the Chad Daybell murder trial. This will be a period of jury selection, and we're going to just follow this thing once the court comes in. Trying to get there. We go. A little background if you'd like it. And I thought maybe as we get started, we could share a couple of things that are going on. I mean, think about it. It's April Fool's Day. And has there ever been a bigger fool than Chad Daybell? I mean, how fitting is it that this guy is going to trial on April Fool's Day? It'll be interesting to see how this thing unfolds. Again, we'll go live once this thing starts. But in the meantime, I wanted to share a couple of things that I've been thinking about, most particularly about this trial in preparation for it, and thought maybe we could share a couple of little video clips, and I'm just getting those prepared. I've been spending some time on Court TV. But last night on Court TV, I chatted with Vinny about a couple of things, three things that in particular I wanted to share with you. The first question had to do with everybody keeps going back to the concept of the religion. And these, both Tammy and Chad were former members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They were excommunicated, although I don't know exactly at what point they were excommunicated. There's no question that they were influenced by the religious teachings they had growing up. And my experience has been, and what I tried to get across on Court TV last night, was that we can really get wrapped around the axles on these kinds of things, where we focus in on the religion, and it has to be focused in on what the guise of power was that these individuals use to control their victims. But I wanted to share this comment I had on Court TV.
Mike, Mike King, how do you see this issue where, you know, he starts at, they're members of the LDS and then they get excommunicated at some point, but the beliefs, the zombies, seem to be off the rails.
You know, the thing that's always troubled me about this is sometimes we want to put them into a real easy to define bucket, because this is such bizarre behavior for us to try to wrap our minds around. And so I go back to kind of the things I learned early on when we ran the Ritual Crime Task Force for the Attorney General. And the main thing that we learned, Vinny, was that usually it's more important to focus on the predatory behaviors that are exhibited and try to figure out that based on what someone's ideology is, what someone's background is, if they're using those kinds of things that they might have learned in attending some worship service somewhere as a youth or throughout their life, or the way in which they pray, that they use that and they start to twist it and they mingle it with philosophy and everything else to come up with something that seems pretty believable. Because for the people that are coming in and looking at these cult leaders, they're looking and listening to people that are kind of talking about scripture that sounds familiar, but then they're coming up with these wacky ideas like zombies and other kinds of things that are just so far out there. But the individual who's coming in and trying to mature into the group or the cult, thinking that they themselves are going to end up with some kind of special dispensation in life, they don't have the courage to stand up and say, that's a goofy belief system you've got there. And so they get sucked into it. Let's just see what your responses are to that. Again, it absolutely is a piece of this investigation. But as I always taught when I went around the country and the world teaching profiling and teaching investigating and prosecuting cult cases, I cautioned against getting too wrapped around the axles on the religious side and focusing on the side that deals with the crime itself and how they used whatever that religious motivation is that they had to control people. These are just such difficult situations. It really is hard. But we then went on, and the other question that came up that I thought was quite interesting that Vinny posed to me was the fact that the children are supporting their dad and continuing to support their father, Chad Daybell, that he wouldn't have done this.
They're married in 1990, and then Tammy dies October 19th, 2019. And then 17 days later, November 5th, 2019, this happens. This happens. Everything was picked out for the wedding beforehand, by the way. They've got receipts. And then a month after this wedding, Tammy's body is exhumed in December. And one of the children of that marriage, Chad and Tammy, Emma Murray, spoke with Court TV about her mom being exhumed and the autopsy results. Take a listen.
The Fremont County Sheriff is who I called, and I left a voicemail at their office. I just wanted to know if I could see my mother's autopsy results. I want to see them before they're released to the media. And Sheriff Humphreys returned my call, and he told me that if I work with Fremont County's head detective, I would be able to discuss it with them. But I was also told that he would not even be able to call me back until later the next week. And my brothers and sisters and I have been on pins and needles for over a year waiting to know what this report says. But I was told that the sheriff himself cannot let my mother's own children see an autopsy report until we all meet together with a detective and answer all of their questions. I don't understand why we would have to meet with a detective just to see a report. And it's something so private, personal, and sensitive that this isn't something that we would be going around talking about anyway. I just want to see the autopsy report. This is my mom. I don't think this is common knowledge, but the Fremont County Sheriff's Office reported the exhumation of my mother's body in December 2019, 2 weeks after the fact, through a public press release from the Rexburg Police Department. That's a city in a different county. They did not sit us down or anything and prepare us or let us know what was going on. But we found out that our mother had been exhumed. I didn't even know what that word meant, but she was exhumed, and we had no idea.
Mike King, real tough spot for all of these children. I mean, even if you're an adult child, I've covered, unfortunately, a lot of cases involving accusations of spousal murder. The kids are caught in the middle. And I would say 18 times out of 20, they believe that their parent is not guilty of anything here.
Yeah.
In this, despite the evidence, and here, the timing of everything. I mean, Tammy is dead October 19th, and they're getting married on November 5th.
Yeah, that whole thing, Vinny, is so troubling to those of us on the outside that are not connected by the emotion. And we have to remind ourselves, one of the things we work so hard for in the Attorney General's office is the victim advocacy program statewide that actually represented families during periods of crises like this. But this is a criminal investigation, and they can put across the point that, yeah, we wanted to know what was happening, but they had to have known that something wasn't right when their father goes through this experience. We don't know exactly what the emotional responses were right after Tammy's death or any disconnect, but we are learning through testimony in Lori Daybell's case and trial of comments that were made that, hey, this was predestined. No, that means it was pre-planned. And those kinds of things become really difficult because a family's already lost one parent. They don't want to lose another. And frankly, they love their mom and dad. They love their dad right now, whether he is right now as an accused killer or if he ends up being convicted and is known as a killer. They love their dad, and we got to be kind of sympathetic to that, but we can't be sympathetic to the point that it jeopardizes a criminal investigation.
I wonder how you're feeling about that. This is a challenge for us that are on the outside and void of the emotion that these kids are feeling. Again, they've lost one parent through murder, and now they stand to lose another through jail time and I guess potentially execution. These are really difficult kinds of things that come up. The last thing that we spent a lot of time talking about in preparation for this trial was this difference, again, kind of going back to the religious aspects, but what's really important in this criminal case. And it's really easy to get, again, pulled aside with the emotion of the murders being religiously motivated. And one of the challenges I faced with the Ritual Crime Task Force was that the voodoo is really tantalizing and we want to spend a lot of time on it. But again, I taught law enforcement all around the world in these kinds of investigations that it's important that we wait for a season to really get into the voodoo, which can be pretty confusing to some people. For a small portion, it might be something that sets them off. It might be something that offends on the other end. So you have to be really cautious because the most important thing is proving the elements of the crime of murder. So with that, I want to end with this last little video that I did in regard to the court TV appearance and my thoughts in that regard.
And that brings me to my final question tonight, Mike. Motive, right? When you look at this couple, we talked about it during Lori's trial, and it depends on how you're looking at it. Is it their twisted beliefs? Is it different for Chad than Lori? Is it passion? Is it lust? Is it the money? How do you see this? The bottom line of why this happened?
Vinny, I think you probably said all the reasons that might be involved in this, but what we find is that it really is about power, dominion, and control. And and I've said this before on your show, as you get fuel, gasoline, and fire together, which Lori and Chad were gas and fire together, you have this explosive thing occur where these two are feeding off of each other. And whether they have some forms of mental illness or whether it is a power play and a way in which to fight for themselves and get away from everything else they've done, it's really difficult to say. And that's why in these kinds of cases that involve religious ideology and these kinds of decisions that are made where we want to keep focusing on the religion, I keep saying, let's focus on the elements of the crime, the fact that a murder occurred, the fact that the child's body was desecrated and destroyed, and then at the appropriate time, bring in all the crazy belief systems that might have fueled it from the background. But don't lose track of the fact that we got to prove a criminal case here.
Absolutely. And you have elements that you have to prove. You know that very well, Mike. All right. Great job tonight.
Okay, so you got all my thoughts. You've heard my ramblings, and you heard the opening of Vordire and there are other ways to say that, but this is the only way I'm really comfortable saying it. And it gives you a chance now to start to figure out what is going to happen next. This is going to be kind of a laborious process as they go through this. I think what we're going to do is say enough is enough and let you watch it all. I'll be on Court TV tonight, so please join me there at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then at 10 o'clock Eastern, I'll be doing choir practice, so I hope you'll join choir practice. Tonight, I'm pretty excited. I got 3 really cool guests coming on. I have a police sergeant from the New York City Police Department who worked in the homicide division, is now a professor at John Jay College. We'll be talking about how academics plays a role in investigations and in policing overall. I've invited a longtime friend, Dennis Cotto, a chief from the Los Angeles Police Department, to come on, and we're going to be talking about a bunch of things in that regard. And then we're going to bring on David Robinson, the father of Dayell Robinson, the young man who's been missing down in Buckeye, Arizona, just west of Phoenix, Arizona. His father is probably the greatest example of love that I have ever seen, as he has spent the last couple of years looking for his missing son. And so, folks, thanks for taking time today to share the opening portions of this murder trial. I think it is going to be really interesting once the sparks start to fly. So, from all of us at Profiling Evil, thanks for supporting us. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Make sure you're signing up for the BOLO. If you feel like you want to donate, go to PayPal and get at Profiling Evil, and we'd love to have anything that you can provide to help us out. So we'll see you tonight. Thanks so much, and we'll see you not only soon at the next crime scene, but tonight at choir practice.